What's up, everybody? Bryan Hornung here with another Guess Who Got Hacked and Breached this week. This week I'm coming to you to talk about a few different breaches in a little different way. Normally I talk about breaches on specific companies. This week I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to be talking more broadly about specific industries that we've seen targeted in the last week. The first one that we're seeing is a huge FBI warning that was given out to K-12, K through 12 organizations. It's not common that we see FBI bulletins and warnings given out to specific industries or groups, and in this case the FBI came out and gave out a very significant warning to K through 12 organizations, in that we're seeing an uptick in breach attempts and we're seeing an uptick in chatter on the dark web around vulnerabilities available right now to companies and organizations that look like they are K through 12 schools based in the US. Now, the reason for this is because of COVID-19, and because schools had to abruptly figure out a way to get employees and get teachers access to the network within the school. And I guess what had happened was a lot of schools just decided to open up what's known as RDP, or allow access through RDP, which, if set up correctly, is a perfectly fine way that you can connect to a network. Again, if set up correctly. There is a lot that goes into securing a network for remote desktop protocol access than just opening up a port and saying, here you are, here's how you access it. You need to do this in a way where it's very secure and it's logged and monitored so you know who is accessing the system that you just opened up to the internet. So with that threat being so prevalent, and the FBI picking up on the fact that they're seeing more and more ports opened for this use, and that the end users when they hit the computers, it's looking like it's a school district or a school, that's alarming. So the FBI decided this week that they saw enough of it going on where they needed to alert K through 12 entities that they have this problem, and that if they are doing this, they need to stop. So if you are in K through 12, if you do have a computer person who's responsible for getting access or allowing access to your network for teachers and administrators, check with them and see how they did it. Make sure that they used a secure method of remote desktop. And if they don't give you a valid reason, if you're not using things like VPNs, if you're not asking teachers and staff for things like their home IP address so you can restrict access and traffic only coming from those IP addresses, these are clear-cut signs that you might have just open access to your systems from the internet. Not only do your teachers have access and your administrators, but so do hackers and everybody else in the world. I will be doing a video in the future to show how easy this is to do, and using simple tools that are freely available on the internet to discover computers that are out there that have open RDP ports and things like that, so workers can get access to the networks that they're usually used to working on when they're actually in the office or in the school during the day. So I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because number one, the FBI doesn't put bulletins and doesn't put statements out there like this very often. So there's a very good chance that this is prevalent, and unfortunately, like we see with most of this stuff, most schools probably aren't going to do anything about this, and then we're going to see a lot of schools get hit with ransomware, or even worse, get hit with malware that kind of just sits on the system as a persistent threat. for a very long time. And schools also need to be concerned about things like cryptoware, because when you have computer systems that are on but they're not being used, criminals can use your computing power and the systems that you have to put cryptoware on your computers and mine for cryptocurrency using your infrastructure. And what that means to the schools is that their electric bill is going to be significantly higher, because the amount of power usage that a computer consumes when it has crypto mining software or crypto malware on it is significantly higher than what it would be for, say, a normal use for a teacher or a secretary or a principal or something like that. So the schools might not get hit with ransomware, but they might see a very large increase in their electric bill, and that could be a very logical reason why an unexplained increase in the electric usage has occurred at a particular school or school district. So the next topic I want to get into is actually my own industry, the MSP industry, where we saw a very large uptick recently in the number of managed service providers or IT companies that have been hacked or compromised recently. And this was even compounded more so in the last couple of weeks because of a flaw with a very popular management tool in our industry known as ConnectWise. ConnectWise put out several bulletins in the last 3 weeks asking their partners to do certain things and patch certain systems due to vulnerabilities that were known and or discovered by ConnectWise themselves, or information was passed to them to make them aware that this vulnerability existed. Many MSPs went out there, they heeded the advice, they took it seriously, and they patched. And then we had some that didn't. And in the last week or so, we've seen well over a dozen IT companies, managed service providers, be compromised, and their clients be compromised with ransomware. This brings up an important point, and why I wanted to talk about this and highlight it is I run into this a lot in our business, where a lot of companies that aren't in our business think that all of us IT companies are the same. Like we all fix computers, we install software, we help when there's issues, things like that. But the reality of it is not all of us are the same. All of us have very different levels of standards, different levels of work ethic, different levels of you name it within the business, and you're going to see differences. Yes, we are an IT company, and we all have the same kind of name on the front of the building, so to speak. But when you open the doors of that company, you can very much tell the differences between IT companies and how they do things. So if you are not working with an IT company that takes security seriously, or you don't know if they take it seriously, you might want to double check on just who you're working with. And it doesn't hurt to double check, to have somebody come in and let you know that there's something not being done that you may think is being done. The biggest fallacy I see with our clients and prospects that I talk to, and other people in the industry or other people in business who work with our competitors and things like that, is they always think that the IT company or whoever they're working with, IT guy, has them covered. They take care of me, and they take care of me is such a generic and widely abused phrase that it raises concern for me when I hear it. Nobody can take care of you 100%. There's always a level of risk in your business that always exists. What we do at Xact IT is we work with our clients and we go over that risk with them. We make sure A, that they're aware of it, and B, we give them the opportunity to tell us that they're comfortable with that level of risk or they're not. For example, If you are a company that doesn't have multi-factor authentication turned on when you log into Windows, you're susceptible to somebody else logging into that system who isn't the person, your employee or yourself, who should be logging into that system. One of the things that we do is we present the client with, hey, none of your systems use multi-factor authentication. And we go through that with them, what that means, what that could look like in their business should somebody gain access to a computer that they technically have no right to gain access to. And we explain to them that multi-factor is a way to basically double check to make sure that the person who's logging into the system is actually the person who's supposed to be logging into the system and not some guy 2 states away or halfway around the world. So when that happens, the multi-factor comes up, person hits it on their phone, or maybe they have a key fob, and they get into the system. That's just an example of risk. And when you don't have multi-factor on, you have a level of risk involved. Now, some of our clients are completely okay with that level of risk, and as long as we're informing them of the risk and what it means to their business and allowing them to make the decision, that's the way that you go about doing IT the right way for companies. The big piece of all of this is that businesses need to understand that not everybody's the same. Not everybody does everything the same. And if your MSP isn't protecting your business, if they're not protecting you as the client, they are probably not protecting themselves either, which also, is the main reason that this article exists, and why I'm doing this section in this video is because MSPs are a target. And if you're not working with an MSP who is not only protecting you, but protecting themselves, you could be, opening yourself up to something that you don't even know is a problem. And that's even, a harder pill probably for a lot of you to swallow, because you probably like your IT person, you probably have a long relationship with them, and to hear me say something like they might not be protecting you and you should be getting a third-party assessment just to double check and make sure, it's a serious warning that I want to give business owners that you need to be checking on your IT person or your IT company and making sure that they're doing everything that you think that they're doing. And if they're not doing something, then work with them and make sure they start doing it, and work with them and make sure that it's getting done. Because here's the dirty little secret about my industry that you should know. There's a systemic problem with managed service companies and IT companies not charging enough money for their services. And you may think you're getting a great deal by whatever your IT company charges you, but if they're not charging enough money, and I'm not here to tell you what the right amount of money is, it's different for every managed service company, because I may have IT professionals who cost me well over $100,000 a year in salary, where my competitor down the street only has 2 or 3 people, and of those 2 or 3 people, they're not paying any of those people over $100,000 a year. So there's a lot of reasons why the prices vary so much between companies when if you're out there shopping for IT services. But the biggest thing I can tell you that I do know is true after being in this business for 16, almost 17 years now, is that the low-priced MSPs usually have quite a few problems that are pretty much the same throughout all of them. Number one, the owners are stressed out and bouncing around like crazy, and they don't have time to do business strategy and things like that with companies like yourself, or what companies really need in order to stay protected these days. If that's the case, they're not able to dedicate the staff or have the time and resources available in order to take care of these things. They're too busy fixing the problems that come up every day, like broken printers and Outlooks that won't connect, and issues with email, issues with Word, issues with your line of business application. They're so busy fixing those things and keeping all that stuff up and running at the end of the day, there's no time left for them to focus on things like security and management and working with your company and budgeting and life cycle management of your IT. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. And then even though they do a great job and they fix all your problems, you get hit with ransomware one day, or you find out you've been breached and you're like, what happened? Why did this happen? So, I'm giving you the reality of what goes on in our industry. And, and finally, the third thing is that, not only do we see the issues, like I mentioned, with the problems with the companies not having enough time and not being able to focus on these things, is like they are just flat out not doing the basic things that need to be done to keep you secure. Like, for instance, we run assessments all the time. And I'm going to say about 95% of the assessments that we run when there's another IT company providing services for that prospect or client, they're not doing things like, when you fire an employee, they're not removing or disabling their accounts. They're not making sure that only certain people have access to certain files in your company. They are not removing computers that get retired from your company. They're not even deleting email boxes of employees that you may have let go. They're not checking backups. They're not making sure your backup works. Here's the number one thing I can tell you. If your company's never done like a disaster recovery test, like your IT company's never taken you through like a fire drill where here's what it's going to look like if you lose these systems, how are you going to actually do something like that when the time comes, when you get hit with ransomware, when your building's on fire, when you're faced with tornadoes or floods and it's imminent? Is the first time you go through disaster recovery, you actually want to be the time that it's actually the event? No, you want to practice this stuff like a fire drill ahead of time. You want to understand what it's going to look like, how you're going to respond, who's responsible for what. And a lot of MSPs are not doing this for their clients. They are skipping right over it. They're not meeting regularly, like once a quarter, like we do at Xact IT, to talk about what's going on in your business and to work on these things with your business. Again, you're not going to hire a company and they're going to come in and fix this for you overnight. This is a process. It takes time to implement these things. But if you're anywhere over 10 employees, if you're not doing these kind of things, you run a huge risk of losing your business simply because your technology is not going to be there for you once something bad happens to your business. So make sure you're working with the right MSP. Make sure that that MSP is doing right by you, and if they're not, they're probably not protecting their own company, which is a huge red flag that you could be working with an MSP that could be hacked one day. And if they're hacked, you're probably 90% greater chance of getting hacked yourself. So I just wanted to get that out there to you. This video didn't talk about any specific companies that were breached up until this point, but right now we're going to get into that, which is LG. LG, the big communication electronics TV manufacturer, was hit with Maze ransomware. And they did not, and as I talked about this in previous videos, the new thing now with ransomware is that they are taking the ransomware, they're encrypting the files, and then even if you have good backups and you can restore the files, they're threatening you by releasing the information on the dark web or releasing it out to the public. More of a PR type embarrassment or trade secret in this case. They have gotten the source code to many of its products. And why this is important to LG, because LG makes smart TVs, they make smart devices. And if the source code of their products gets out there, then that makes LG products much more susceptible to things like attacks on those products. If hackers can understand where the vulnerabilities are in the code and how the software was constructed, they can use that information and take that and do a lot of damage to LG products. So the Maze ransomware hit LG encrypted. They had one deadline. They've been given multiple deadlines in this case because the hackers knew who they got. They were given multiple deadlines. They missed the first deadline, and they are now releasing the code on the dark web. This is going to continue until LG pays the money. So this is just another example of this is a big company in this case that got hit by ransomware, but the data before the ransomware was released was stolen. They poured through it. They realized what they had. Now they can go back in, use the ransomware as a tool to ask for more money. And when LG says that we're not going to pay because we know we have backups, the hackers then say, well, we're just going to release all your source code to all your products on the dark web if you don't pay us this money. So I hope this video was enlightening to you. I hope you see how these attacks and how the trends are evolving, not only by company, but also by industry. If you are in K-12, please do everything you can to make sure you do not have RDP open for your people to remote in and access things. Work with a professional who can securely lock that down for you or recommend an alternative solution. If you're in the MSP space, please make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to protect your MSP. It's very important that we work on security as a team. And that's what we believe here at Xact IT. If you are an MSP and you are struggling with security, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to help any MSP who's struggling with securing their own firm. And finally, LG, just learn from the experience, understand that security is serious. These criminals are getting more and more brazen with how they're attacking, what they're demanding, and how much they're demanding. So it's very important that you keep top of mind security. Make sure you're doing everything that you can to protect your business in today's day and age with technology. Thank you for watching this video from Xact IT Solutions. And if you like what you saw here today, please give us the video a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or you want to comment about anything that you saw in our video, please do so in the comment section below. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get alerted when we upload new videos to the channel, please hit the little alert bell, and hopefully YouTube will notify you when we post new content. Check out the link in the description below for any more information relevant to this video. And if you want to know anything about our services or how we can help your company with IT, please check out our website at xitx.com.